Welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th Anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, April 15th, 2014, a lot was going on in the world. Happy by Pharrell Williams was still number one. I don't know what week we're on, but I looked it up and it was number one for 10 weeks. So it's going to keep on keeping on. And the top movie, no surprise, was still Captain America, the Winter Soldier. No thanks to me. Some cool stuff was going down. The Supreme Court in India recognized transgender as a third gender 10 years ago, giving transgender folks rights, which is cool. I wish that we were still thriving 10 years later. But a total lunar eclipse occurred. Interesting, because eclipse happened this week as well. This made me feel old. Maisie Williams turned 17 on this day 10 years ago. And the Fargo series premiered, and that's still going on. But the most important thing that happened on April 15th, 10 years ago, was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 18th episode, Providence, aired on ABC at a special time, 9/8 Central. I'm Jamie Jirak. I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and level 1 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, Tony Polito. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, everybody who's watching and listening. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I am so excited to announce our guest today. Manis. Oh, there he is.
Brett!
You did it.
Yay!
Brett,
I think we're
thanks so
having
much
some
for
Wi-Fi
coming back.
issues. Oh,
Are
you're
we?
so welcome. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good. We're better
good.
now. Yeah.
We're good. We're good. All right.
Welcome back, Brett.
But we made it. Thank you. Am I the first returning guest?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
sir.
our first returning guest.
What an honor. Thank you so
I
much.
know.
Could Clark not do a second week? Is that
Yeah, no,
No,
it was,
he was actually he was really down. He wanted to do this episode, but we said, Clark, listen, we got to get Brett back on. You're gonna have
Yeah,
to take it.
exactly. Listen.
Don't be
we all
greedy.
know we all know who's higher on the Q score these days.
Of course. Of course.
Exactly. I will say, if Clark hadn't chosen last week's episode, I would have had you as last week's guest because
Thank you, because it's pivotal.
It is the guest. Yeah, it's so pivotal, and I'm so glad you're here to talk the aftermath. So let's kick it off with how we normally kick it off. 10 years ago, what were you doing, Brett?
10 years ago. So I always measure time by what was happening in the X-Men comics. Oh, by the way, it's Gambit week.
Amazing shirt, yes.
Yeah, and so I was in a really sad place because this was the peak of the Brian Michael Bendis run in Uncanny X-Men, which is total garbage for me. I was like, we were discovering that like Wolverine and Mystique had a kid and who came from the future, and it was so bad. I hated it. However, we're like, this is Winter Soldier time. So I remember thinking, oh my God, all the Marvel movies are going to be this good moving forward.
So,
and
they never were that good again. I
and
mean,
they never
we've
were
had
that
so
good
many
again.
good ones, but nothing was ever better than that movie.
Correct. So that's, and then Jamie, I looked up comedy wise, we were working on Assemblers 3, our superhero, sketch where we expanded the cast. Typically, it was a 7-person show, and we went up to like 12. And so it was epic. We got a bigger budget, essentially.
I'm seeing Jamie's face, and I can tell she's blocked out so much of her improv experience.
Well, I wasn't in those shows, so.
Which is wild in retrospect.
It is wild in retrospect, but at the time it did kind of make sense. But in retrospect, it is pretty crazy that I wasn't in those. Yeah. But it's, it is what it is. What it is. We talked about on our Winter Soldier episode, Brett, about how I didn't see that in theaters. But then, if you remember, when it was re-released, we saw it in New York for MCU's 10th anniversary. And I loved how I was like, Brett, we're going to see this. And you were like, you were so hyped to see it again.
Yeah. So happy.
Anyway. Oh. Tony, what were you doing 10 years ago?
10 years ago? I was working at a sort of recycled fashion emporium in Austin, where it was sort of a vintage thrift, but with kind of a modern twist, and we could work individually with clients and help them create their sort of fashion personalities. That was what I was doing.
Ooh.
Wow, I wish that was still a thing and real, because I feel like I would have benefited from that.
Yeah, it was a lovely job. Yeah.
I know, because 10 years ago was an eclipse. I know what I was doing. I was watching Eclipse, the Twilight movie, which is so funny because this week there were so many memes about the movie Eclipse because of the eclipse that people kept sending me that were like, not to spoil the eclipse, but Bella chooses Edward. Like 15 people sent me different versions of that meme, and I was like, I was doing this 10 years ago. Sorry.
Jamie, this is what happens when you like things as hard as you do. Like, if it's going to be like May the 4th is always going to be annoying for you. Like, things like this just going to happen.
I don't think it's annoying. I love when people love what I love. I love for Twilight. Don't get me wrong. It's the fact that everyone was thinking they were being so clever, making the same joke. Was like, it was the fact that it was the same joke over and over again, and people kept sending me different versions of it. And I'm like, I get it. It's a joke that I made 10 years ago.
Understood.
Yes. No, I love when people love things, especially when those things are Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And speaking of people who love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I want to shout out everyone who's been listening and sharing our Clark Gregg episode. That was just... It was amazing. We made the nerdy news circuit. We were in articles from Screen Rant, our friends at Agents of Fandom, and a bunch of other sites, and that was so cool. So thank you to everyone who just made this as big of an episode as it was. And of course, we've got a pop-in chat today. Everyone's in there. Their lanyards are issued. Tony, you want to tell the chat about the rules?
Oh yeah, guys, don't spoil things in the chat, which is to say that if you're going to talk about something that happens in future episodes, just say spoiler alert. Now, our producer Maria is not here with us today. Normally, she's the one who will be monitoring the chat, and if you spoil something without saying spoiler alert, she finds you and brutally stabs you. She's not here to do that today, but Jamie is in the chat, and she will be, I don't know if stabbing is your own personal choice of punishment for spoilers.
I'm not going to stab anyone. I might get a stern message, but I would like to shout out myself for getting the countdown. I almost was perfect. I got Brett in and out. I think, I wish Maria was here. It's a lot of work to do everything at once, but we're trucking along. Brett.
Yeah,
I do want to ask. So we know what an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan you are. You've been on the show. Everyone knows you're a mega fan. And you also were always pretty much on top of it. You didn't fall off a lot. And so I'm curious do you remember this episode airing like right after Winter Soldier?
100%. This is the most in my element, one of the most in my element phases of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, this is where I was very leaned in, because I remember going to see Winter Soldier, and then I stood up in the theater and was like, what about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? And someone was like, nobody watches it. And I was like, you're going to now. So I was just very invested in what was happening because it was so, it was so fundamental. So, yeah.
Oh, I bet you that's the same guy that gave Clark a hard time for that no one watches Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ooh, people were mean about that. Yeah, that was rude. But this guy, or this episode, Providence, is a it's a big one. It's following in the aftermath of the Hydra reveal. It was written by Brent Fletcher, who again was an EP for the entire series. He previously wrote "Girl in the Flower Dress" and "The Magical Place." The episode was directed by Milan Shaloff, who previously directed The Asset. So, Brett, at this rate, we need you back for season 2, episode 8, The Things We Bury, because that's his last episode. So I feel like we need you for all 3 of this guy's run of director.
I like that.
Director. Yeah, I was going to say
director.
The writer. Because
director.
The writer, isn't the writer the one that wrote your eponymous episode?
Yes. The writer wrote...
Did I say that word right?
I don't know, but I know what you mean. I think.
Everybody in the chat start looking up the word eponymous.
Yeah, help us out. But the director, though, it did this, The Asset, and one more in season 2.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm back for that one too.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's so keep that in mind, and that's when Tony leaves the room, I'm going to mention something exciting about that episode. But
I also love that I'll know what date that is.
Yes.
Your show format is very helpful with planning. It's great.
Yep.
Thank you. It is really nice that way. So the cast have got our core six. Bill Paxton and BJ Britt are back as Garrett and Trip. We also got some big returns: Ruth Negga as Raina and David Conrad as Ian Quinn, and two very exciting newcomers: Adrian Pasdar as General Talbot and Patton Oswald as Eric Koenig. So I really wanted Brett in this episode because he's such a Talbot lover. He loves Talbot.
I am. And actually, it started with, this was after here. Yeah, this was super after Heroes. Of course it was.
Yeah.
It started with the fact that he was playing General Talbot. Anytime there was a meaningful character from the comics, I definitely was all over it. And General Talbot is a big Hulk supporting character. So I just loved that Nathan Petrelli, of all people, Heroes, was playing yet, because it's rare that an actual comic book character was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point. They were, here and there. So it was nice to have Talbot.
Tony, I'm going to assume you never watched Heroes.
No, I never watched Heroes. And I want to say, Brett, I didn't realize. I know who General Talbot is. It didn't click with me until just now.
There was like
totally.
Thunderbolt Ross, and then when he was busy in the Hulk comics, it was General Talbot.
I completely forgot that he was taken from the comics. That's really cool. That's
cool. He's a Hulk character.
Yeah.
I love Talbot, and I think Adrian Pasdar is amazing as Talbot, but it's so hard. I can't look at him the same way now that the Chicks album Gaslighter has been released into the world, because the entire album is about him, and I am able to separate it for like the show, but I feel like he's somebody I don't think I could invite on because I've talked about the album too much in my life, that it just like wouldn't be right to try to get him and pretend that I haven't listened to that album a million times.
How could you look him in the eye after all the things you said about him?
But that doesn't matter. He's great.
Bro.
I made Tony listen to that song.
God.
But that doesn't matter. He's great in this role, and that's what we're here to talk about. But the synopsis, the aftermath of Hydra coming out of the shadows, Coulson and his team try to keep S.H.I.E.L.D. intact while Ward and Garrett continue on with Hydra's plans. So initial thoughts on the episode. Tony, you go first. How'd you feel about this one?
Oh man, it's good. It's a good episode where it is very much feels like a kind of a come down from where we were from the previous episode we just saw. I've ranked it about midway through on my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode ranking. So right now, episode 18, Providence, is ranked number 10. End of the Beginning is ahead of it. The Asset is underneath it.
Okay.
So really strong episode. It's interesting. It was like all of the very sudden and all the very sudden feelings that I was experiencing at the end of the previous episode were now given room to breathe. And so I just got to kind of sit with all of these questions and doubts and frustrations and disappointments as we carried through with this story. It still has a tension to it. It's a tense episode, but it's I think an appropriate kind of slowdown for where we just came from.
I totally agree, Brett.
Yeah, and just because I have to put everything in X-Men terms, this is what we call what we used to call a back at the mansion issue. It was just after the big thing, all the characters kind of processing that big thing. And this is very much that. I will say a lot of the processing is put on Coulson, and you don't really get to see a lot of the other characters processing it. They're still kind of lost in the dark that is, there is no S.H.I.E.L.D. It was Hydra all along. It was all a lie. So it's nice to see them kind of feeling around in the dark with Coulson, who typically is their light, just chaotic, just emoting and ultimately being right, which I love. There's just put your faith in Coulson, trust Coulson. Is kind of solidified and validated, and I love that about this episode. I also love that it brought back Raina. I love Ruth Nega's character. I love her performance in this show. And so, yeah, it was exciting. It's exciting overall to be in this new phase of the show. And I think you're still processing the feelings, but feeling that excitement at the same time. So it's great.
I totally agree.
To bounce off what you were saying about the processing, what I found was really interesting was, yes, all of the emotional and mental processing, what we were experiencing through Coulson. But the other Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., what was so interesting about it is they were made to work. Like they had time, which is what I really liked. Like it was like, you got this fixed, we got to get this going, we got to get up in the air. And it was like they didn't have the time to process. And so it was, I like that aspect of it.
Love that.
Yeah, it's especially the Coulson of it all is just so great to watch, and the way that they're trying to all trust each other, but it's hard. And I love Providence. I love the introduction of Koenig, and it just feels like last week's episode could have been a season finale, and the fact that it's like it ramped up so high and now it's kind of dipping a little, not in terms of quality, just in terms of stakes. We're kind of feeling it out, and we know that with only a few episodes left, like what's gonna happen? It's crazy.
There is that. However, you also know we yet to see the rest of the characters learn about Ward. And so while we're in that dip, you know, though, that Skye finding out is right around the corner, you know? So it's kind of nice to be here because you know it's going to blow right back up.
Yeah. Unless he just manages to go all 7 seasons undercover for Hydra.
Yeah, son of a bitch. The thing about Providence, and we'll get to it more later, was that it's such a relief to be there. But like as soon as Ward walks in, it's fucking poison. Like it's already like I was so happy to be there and relieved, and then he got in there, and I'm like, fuck, you're poisoning this nice place.
Yeah.
It's so true. So we'll just let's get talking about the episode. It kicks off with Ward rescuing Raina from her cell. He brings her the flower dress, which I love.
Cute. I loved Ruth Nega just like in her cell, and then when she realizes someone's coming to her cell, she like sits all poised on the edge of her bed, but just like puts on her sort of demure, you know, and like she's so brilliant. She crushes this role.
It's something special, and I do like I like that she gets nervous when she sees Ward because she thinks he's a good guy. She doesn't know. And Raina's not someone who shows surprise very often because she's so good at that, and you can kind of see like she's like, what the fuck, what's going on?
Yeah.
A lot of this episode is Ruth Nega is Raina like being surprised and having she typically had the advantage over everybody, but now there's so many secrets around her that she's not aware of. It's so fun watching her try to still be that coy, like mystique type, and I mean the X-Men, like have a mystique about her, while also like reacting to all of this harsh truth throughout the rest of it.
And then we find, you know, Skye is trying to figure out which bases are secure. There's only 3, including the hub. Poor Coulson, he's like 7, right? It's just falling, like that's so sad. The moment where he's like, internet, yay! Like they're just taking whatever wins they can get. You know, but then we find out that Garrett has a base of his own in Havana. And like this is a really fun scene. So Raina meets Garrett. She's disappointed to learn that he's not an actual clairvoyant. And she says later, she's like, there's a question I would have asked, and I really like what was the question? I don't know. Or do I? And then, you know, he says, welcome to Hydra. And that's another surprise face for her because like she didn't know she was working for Hydra. She didn't know Centipede was Hydra. And I also love the moment where Ward said he's gonna let his beard grow out because he's in his villain era. And so like that means it's time to grow a beard.
It's so funny. I was watching this and I was like, you know what? How did we not know that Bill Paxton was the clairvoyant? It's like such the Law and Order thing. It's like, oh, there's a celebrity guest starring on this episode. Did they do it? You know,
right?
Is Anthony Michael Hall on this week? Is he the killer? You know, it's like obviously Bill Paxton is the one.
Yeah, fair enough.
It is because like it is funny because like Tony, I don't think saw that coming. And I don't think I did the first time either.
Oh,
which
I didn't
in
either.
retrospect, yeah,
Mm-mm.
it's like it is really funny. Like, duh.
Yeah, it hit me watching it this time. I was like, how did I not know that Bill Paxton was going to be a big anyway?
Tony, any thoughts about that Havana base?
Oh, so cool. Yeah, that's some James Bond shit right there. I like that very much.
yeah.
I like sitting on a barber chair that goes into a subterranean villainous lair with all kinds of shit you stole. Yeah, really cool. I'm into it. We aren't is the next thing like Trip, like, first of all, I didn't get to say this in the last episode because we were talking to Clark, and we were talking to Clark, just let Clark roll. But the fact that we got to keep Trip during this shakeup really meant a lot to me, because I really like Trip, and I was like, I don't want to lose Trip, and we have not lost Trip, and I'm really happy about that. Ward could take a hike.
Trip is the best.
Yeah.
Trip is the best.
I love this guy. So I'm excited. I'm excited that he's here, and I'm excited that not to jump ahead, Jamie, but I'm excited that Gemma is making horny decisions to insist.
Yeah, we can talk about this now.
Yeah,
this is close in the rundown because like Trip wants to stay and Coulson says absolutely not, and Gemma fights for him, and I love this because Coulson's like, it's not a democracy, and she's like, isn't it though? Like, and I love that how bold Gemma is getting, like she like the way that she's argues with him, and it's from like the change from her from like ever since Fizz, I think like that changed her on a fundamental level. She's just a grown bigger person who's willing to stand up for herself. We didn't talk about this last week, but a moment I love in last week's episode is when Trip is like, you're not a very good liar, and she goes, I know, but I'm getting better at it. Like, whew, I love that. But I also agree, it's like it is slightly a horny decision. Like, are we shipping them?
Oh, I am. Yeah. I mean, I personally am. It is sad to see Fitz getting increasingly more jealous and disapproving and protective of her, but I don't ship them, so this is how I feel about it. Yeah.
We got a Trimmins thumbs up in the comments.
Trimmins. Yeah, I'm into that.
Brett?
Yeah, I love that Jenna is being bolder. Like, of course you're going to see this beautiful man in a tank top and be like, no, he's going to, I would fight for him too. I'd be like, no, he's going to stay. We don't have room for him. He could sleep with me.
Right.
It's fine. I'm wondering, do we know Trip's background at this point? Okay. Got you. I got you. Yeah. That's great. I love it. And I love that. I actually love to see Fitz reacting and having jealousy, which is not a emotion you get from the science nerd supporting character in stuff very often, so for Jenna to start to advocate for Trip and then to see Fitz reacting to that, like, here's two characters I would love to start to see more and more humanity out of, and we're starting to see it from Gemma. Maybe we'll see it from Fitz one day, but I think these are some early sparks.
This is in my notes for later, but I'll just bring it up now. Is that I love in Fitz's jealousy mode when Trip makes a Moby Dick reference, and Fitz is like, "Have you even read that?" And Trip's like, "Yeah, have you?" And then like he clearly hasn't. First of all, it comes off a little racist. I think to like assume that this man hasn't seen. Fitz, I don't think obviously didn't intend it that way, but it's
I
like
think
to be
it's
like,
more that he's a job type.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's a soldier.
So but it does make me be like, oh, Fitz, that's a bold question.
Yeah. Don't be rude.
I mean, I can also see like Fitz kind of liking Ward not being there, because like he's not like the beta male. And then here comes another alpha soldier guy, and Fitz is like, oh, I got to deal with this one too,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Fitz. So then backtracking a little, we get General Talbot in there. The government's getting in the way. I really like the moment where like he's laying down the law to Coulson, and Coulson's like, sounds good. And then the thing shuts off and he goes, that doesn't sound good. Like, we don't want the government up in here. Tony, what are your first instincts about Talbot?
Not trustworthy. Like, I mean, just when Coulson said, sounds good. I was like, yeah, no, this isn't good. This isn't like everything about this guy is reading as very dangerous. No, he seems not trustworthy. Does not seem like an ally. Seems like a guy who can clean up a mess and not leave any witnesses. So yeah, I think it was the right call for Coulson to get airborne ASAP. Good work.
Mm-hmm. Brett, do you remember like did you remember Talbot's first appearance? Like looking back, did you remember it was just like on a screen?
No, I didn't. I was actually very surprised when I did the rewatch. I was like, oh wow, that was his first appearance, because there's no spoilers here. Obviously, you're going to get this guy walking into a room, bossing people around, just being a general dick, like soon. And that's always how I think of Talbot, you know, but it was nice to have this kind of preview before he actually shows up, literally.
I misremembered as well, which is funny because I have seen these episodes like 10 times, but I was realizing I haven't watched season 1 in 4 years. The last time I did a full rewatch was before the final season. So there were a couple things that I'm like, oh yeah, my brain was mixing the order of some things up, which I'll talk about more when Tony leaves the room. But another thing in the episode, Garrett and Ward are kind of fighting about Sky. I like that Garrett calls her his Candy Crush. And
I was like, oh, that Candy Crush is that old, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Real hot topic back in the 10 years ago. And so this is because Ward was really upset when Sky was shot. And even though like that whole time I'm like, I get pissed because he's like mad at, he was legitimately blaming Coulson for that when he knew who was behind it. Even if he didn't want it to happen, even if he didn't know it was going to happen, the fact that he's like, and it's not like he was pretending to blame Coulson. I think he legit, because like he's just so fucked in the head. He like genuinely was blaming Coulson for putting Sky in that position, even though it was his boss who ordered it to happen.
That's that Hydra brain, okay? That's that cult brain right there.
This brings me to my next note, which is just Ward sucks very much. And I just wrote it down and as explicitly as I can. It's been a push-pull with him. Then he just went full Hydra, deceiver, liar, murderer, written off. Good luck coming back from this. I don't really give a fuck what happens to you. Bite it, Ward. You're out.
The end. Sky calls Ward and tells him that they're scrubbing everybody's IDs, and then he starts talking about Tom Brady, and Tony literally went, he would. He would. Right? Like the worst guy imaginable. Of course, that's his like go-to guy to look up to.
He's the Tom Brady of the MCU, Grant Ward. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's so funny you keep talking about X-Men, Brett, and like how you have to see everything through that prism. Well, as we were watching the previous episode, before it's revealed that Ward is Hydra. I was having this thought of, oh, Agent Ward is the Cyclops of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because he's emotional and he's a Boy Scout, but he always feels unappreciated. And I was like, wow, he really is kind of hitting that character prism really well. But then it turns out he's Hydra, and I had to throw that out. It doesn't work anymore.
It is funny though when you think that Grant Ward he's a cover persona. I actually, later on, I like the getting back into character scene I thought was really effective. But it's just so funny that the guy that is underneath Grant Ward decided that Grant Ward would love Tom Brady. I can't hate the guy for nailing the character like that.
That's right. Yeah, it's impressively duplicitous.
Tom Brady, of course, being the quarterback from the New England Patriots.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. If I knew that, I'm sure everyone else knew that. Like, I have seen 80 for Brady, so.
I have to on an airplane. I thought it was delightful.
A good airplane movie for sure. It's
you guys know more about Tom Brady than I do.
What's the other one with the 4 women that I like more?
The Book Club.
The Book Club. I prefer the Book Club movies, but they have their place. Anyway, that has nothing to do with any of this. We're gonna take a quick 30-second break. So if you're watching, you want to refill your drinks, go to the bathroom. We will see you back very soon. Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra. We are here with Brett Manis talking about Providence. While we were taking our 30-second break, I was looking at some of the chat, and it's funny. We actually do have some people who don't know who Tom Brady is, because I forget that we have people who aren't from the States who listen to this show, and I love that. That makes me really, really happy. Shout out to all of our overseas listeners.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, so we get to the point where Coulson is struggling with a lot of things, but he's really struggling with Fury's death, because they found out last week that Fury is supposedly dead. That's kind of the big thing right now. That was his mentor. He recruited him, but then his badge starts buzzing with coordinates, and he gets this kind of like new sense of hope that Fury might be alive, and he's sending him a message. And the rest of the team are like, dude, you are tripping. Trip and Simmons are like, this is Hydra. May thinks Coulson's losing it. She's like, and then, but like Coulson's still really mad at May. Like, mom and dad are fighting.
Yeah,
and
May
it's
and
hard.
Coulson are breaking my heart in this episode. Like I hate that they're fighting. I hate it, guys. It really makes me sad. That's all I'll say about
and I'm like, you guys, it's Nick Fury. Like, you don't think there's a chance he could be alive? You don't even know the details of what happened. They were making me mad.
Yeah, but like the part where Coulson says, "Let's skip the part where you're worried about my well-being." It just hurts so bad, because I think that he knows that May cares. He's just
pissed off.
He's just still salty, so he's pushing her buttons, and he's right to be pissed. But like, it's sad to see May like sad and sidelined, because like she doesn't show a lot of emotion, but you can see it in her face that she's sad.
Yeah, and when so is this where she makes the suggestion that she was put on the team for a reason?
That was, I think, the previous. It's in the previous episode or the one before that. She implies to Coulson that he didn't select this team. She selected this team.
She reiterates it in this moment where she's like, I was put here to watch you, and then she reveals that Fury, that Fury wasn't actually behind the Tahiti project, but she doesn't know who it was, and she's worried that Hydra might be controlling him, because they didn't know how deep Hydra went, and he could have been the one to put Tahiti in his brain. Like, she's making fair points. It's just, I don't blame him for being like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Right. But there's also, she's holding on to information that she can't share also. So it's hard when two people need to reconcile when they can't fully communicate what's happening in their brain. It's like, I love you, just trust me, I can't tell you, kind of thing. So it just makes it double hard. Her hands are tied, and it's tough.
Yes, it is. I don't like it.
No. Back to the baddies, the villains. Raina. So they gave Raina the hard drive that Sky had put like everything on last week of all like their big missions. But so she's talking to Ward, and she's basically like, "How did you do that? How did you go undercover?" She's like, "I met Coulson. He was a good dude." And then like he just like lays it out so robotically, like, well, May was the primary threat, so I fucked her, and like all this stuff, and then he makes that comment like, I'm everybody's type, and then Tony went like Tom Brady.
That's funny. That's funny. I actually really love that line. A, because Grant Ward is so hot.
We know how you feel.
We know he's hot. We know.
Yeah, but B, he's like, I thought that spoke to his spycraft. That he could be, he can be whoever somebody needs him to be, to build trust. I don't know. I liked that line for that reason too.
He's clever. I'll give him that.
Yeah. And he also says that thing like where he admits like, like they're good people and all, but I owe Garrett everything. Like, he pulled me out of hell. Like, we don't know the details, but we do know that he had an abusive brother. And so I guess it's implied that Garrett saved him from that situation. And so he has that loyalty there. But I'm curious, Tony, where do you stand now? I know you fucking can't stand him, but where do you stand on like where his loyalties are? Do you see him turning sides again, or do you think that he's with Garrett till the end?
Yeah, of course he's going to turn sides again. Of course, like they were telegraphing that to me when he shoots Hand, And then the episode ends. We get the Shield logo, and then it's a post-credit scene of him just stewing in his doubt and remorse. So, yeah, Ward will flip again, and I'm sure he'll earn it in a way that he'll be accepted back in some form. But like, I know that that's going to happen. I feel like I know that that's going to happen, and I feel like the thing that I'm impressed about with the show is that I can't imagine how the hell they do it. How the hell you take a character to a break? How you doing there, Brett? You all right?
He's
Good, I'm
trying not
fine.
to spoil anything. Is
I'm
Tony
fine.
right? Is Tony wrong?
Yeah. So
We don't
anyway,
know.
that's how I feel about Agent Ward. And yeah, the end.
Okay. Well, I guess one day we'll find out if Tony's right or wrong, but today is not that day. So then they raid the fridge. Those stupid shield
Lord knows
dummies.
I've been there.
um, those dummies at Shield let them right in. Like after all that Hydra's doing, you just let these guys in after one little let us in, we're dying out here. Come on.
Oh, it's masterful. It's a masterful move. It really is.
If like honestly, remember the two security guys working at the place where Paxton and Greg went in to get the serum coming from the alien blood and all that? Like those two guys were fucking hardcore. Those guys were like click clack click clack. All right, well, we're not supposed to have people in here. Let's go. And like if we'd have been so lucky to have a couple of Shield agents with that kind of intensity, would have diverted the entire Hydra plot. But no, you get the two fucking softies up there by the sliding glass door. Pissing me off.
And then they get shot right in the face. Like that was dark.
They do.
He's just right in the face. Did they get shot? Woo.
Boy.
Right after a great, like, I love that though they had to get shot because Bill Paxton couldn't resist. Garrett couldn't resist a good one-liner.
Yeah.
I mean, an okay one-liner.
Yeah. That's the thing. He's like he thought that was a real barn buster, but it was fine.
Fascists. They don't have good senses of humor.
Goddamn right.
So they're raiding the fridge. There's a Johnny Horton reference, who was Griffin in the comics. He was introduced in Amazing Adventures Volume 2, number 15 in 1972. Brett, do you remember him in the comics?
The Griffin?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when they made the reference to the lion paws, and I said Griffin. Fun fact, Griffin actually has a daughter who was a character on the Secret Avengers for a while in the comics. She was a hero. Yeah.
Cool.
There's a moment in a much later season where something is said that made me think a future character was going to end up being his daughter, but that didn't happen based on a line that was said. If you remember, we'll talk about it later because that character is far away from coming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I could go in more about who this hero is.
We'll
tangential.
We'll talk when Tony leaves the room. Tony, did you know him, Johnny Horton?
I don't know who Griffin is. I've never heard of Griffin. It's funny. It didn't even occur to me that they would be describing an actual comic character, but I ought to have, considering they were describing someone with lion paws for hands. I was like, yeah, sounds cool. I would like to know about Griffin.
Yeah, if I've learned anything from working at comicbook.com, it's if a name is said in Marvel, you Google the name and see if it's somebody.
Totally. But I don't Google about this show at all. I have a strict rule about it. So I just have to wait for people like Brett to tell me things.
Brett, were you
I'm trying to think if I know any more fun facts about Griffin, but I was going to say I remember at the moment getting excited that they dropped Griffin, and I have a perspective on those moments now that I think I'll share later.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot of you guys are gonna have a long Tony leaves the room. I'm telling you.
We are. It's gonna be a whole other bonus episode. Yeah.
Oh, it's hard. It's so hard sometimes. Also, okay, there's that moment where Ward is like, oh, there's another floor under here, and they make the bet, and then Ward makes that comment that he's sick of the food on the plane, and for some reason that like really offends me. Like,
me too.
Like of all the things he does, like don't disparage the bus. The bus is amazing. Right. The bus has been your home, and It's so funny. Like he shot 2 people in the face, but when he makes a joke about the bus food, I get like really angry.
You're like,
about
you bastard.
Yeah.
Well, him and Garrett have got this like dick measuring contest energy that actually does, like, it kind of grates me a little bit. I think it's supposed to in the episode. Like they have this tone, this back and forth, like, yeah, yeah, clever quip, right? Yeah, bro. Like it's so annoying. And I feel like Ward is doing this thing where he wants to impress Garrett by saying things like, oh, the food, like throwing the food of the bus under it.
To disparage the team you were pretending to be is like part of it's a showing of allegiance to that person.
It's like when you and when it's like when you make fun of like your old clique of high school friends because you're in with a new clique of high school friends. You're like, oh yeah, they're nerds anyway. It's like that mentality. It feels like
it is. I'm just gonna mention this note I wrote earlier and I already put a check mark by it. But Ward sucks very much. That's
late breaking news.
Put it on a T-shirt. Eventually, I want us to have Lido T-shirts, and just Ward sucks would be a good
on the back.
A good first one. Yeah. So then we get to like the big moment. They go to the Canadian wilderness. Last week after Tony left the room, Clark told us that because he knew Providence was next, and he told us that the fake snow was really gross. I think that's really funny.
It does look so fake when May and it's May and Sky are walking, right?
Yeah.
Studio snow.
Yeah, it gets, and I could also tell that they had probably half of an acre that they were just reconfiguring and staging because, like, cut to walking this way, cut to 2 other people. I'm like, that's the same path, guys. Yeah,
wait, that's that same tree that was next to that tree. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So
this scene, breaks my heart. Like seeing Coulson be pathetic is this. We haven't seen this yet. He's followed his heart this far. I feel I'm watching it and I'm pretty confident that this is going to pay off. No part of me thinks that we're going to enter this new location and there's not going to be some sort of beacon of hope in here somewhere. But watching him doubt himself and realize that he's potentially stranded his team in the snowy wilderness to chase some wild hare that he wants to believe in. Watching him process that was really, really sad. And something we haven't seen from this character yet. So I was quite moved by it.
When he says we are not agents of nothing, like it's so heartbreaking.
Which is so funny to me because when she says we're not even agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we're agents of nothing, I remember loving that line because I'm like, yes, here we go. Take everything away from these characters and show us who they are. I was so excited for this moment. And then for him to get so angry about that line, this monologue is so heartbreaking because you could tell he kind of doesn't even believe this himself. Right. He just needs it to be true.
Yes.
And there's a big difference there.
Yeah, he has to insist. He has to insist on their significance because he's gotten them this far.
It has to mean something.
Yeah.
But good news, it does.
Good news.
It does.
Yeah. It does. There's a base here. Tony was so excited when that base opened up. Tony was like, just I could see the relief. And we got Eric Koenig is here.
And then it gets better.
Yes. It's so funny. I feel like Patton Oswalt is it's not a real show if Patton Oswalt doesn't show up once. Like he's just the king of guest starring. And he's also Koenig is not the only Marvel character Patton Oswalt's played. He's voiced MODOK. He was Pip in Eternals. Like the man gets around.
That's right.
And but I love Koenig. It's such a great energy that brings to what's happening because he's like nerding out about Coulson. He's just he has not really been in the shit because he's been living in this fucking base since New York happened. And I love that he's really like stern about everybody. Everybody will be issued a lanyard on a case by case basis. Yeah, we'll see. But the best is when he pulls Coulson aside and he's like, "Yeah, my bad. Fury's not dead."
That's so funny. Yeah. That is so funny. Yeah, just kidding. He's not dead. Like, wait, what? Yeah, he's not dead. He just, who knows? I know, Cap, Maria, like, it's like 5 people.
Yeah. It was great. It's a brilliant application of Patton Oswalt, but also he gets this great moment of like, Patton Oswalt, and you can't tell anybody on your team, and he's like, "Well, I don't like keeping things for my team." He's like, "No, you don't understand. Like, it's not allowed." And Coulson says, "Are you threatening me?" And Patton Oswalt says to Agent Coulson, "100%. I am threatening." It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Like Patton Oswalt just threatened Coulson. I didn't know like this guy's got status.
Yeah, he's a
Koenig
high-ranking agent.
would not have let Ward into the fridge. I'll tell you that right now. If
No.
Koenig
We'll tell
was
you
in the
that right
fridge,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Tony, everyone in the chat wants to know that you deserve a lanyard. # lanyard for Tony.
Yeah,
and I
you've
think
earned
that's
your
really
lanyard.
sweet.
If I get a lanyard, I will wear it on every episode.
I mean, you wanted a badge, but badges don't mean anything anymore. So now here we go.
My badge got blown
fun
up by a
little-
talking machine gun. I should get a lanyard.
A fun little story. I went to the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness premiere, and when that came out, we thought that there was going to be a lot more multiverse stuff going on. Like we just assumed we'd see more people. And I saw Patton Oswalt in the lobby, and I was like, we were just like standing there, and I went, "Hey man, that movie was missing a Koenig appearance, right?" And he laughed, and he's like, "I know." And so just love for he was really nice when I brought up Koenig, because I'm sure that Patton Oswalt doesn't get Koenig the most when people see him in the lobby.
Can you imagine if like there's so many characters not in Multiverse of Madness, and then all of a sudden it's Agent Eric Koenig from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'm just seeing Patton Oswalt like sitting at a con signing Koenig pictures.
Yeah, I will say though, we did get one ABC Marvel TV character in that movie though, which is wild in retrospect.
I do think that at one point we need to Patreon Inhumans, because I've never seen it. When Black Bolt showed up in Multiverse of Madness, I did not know who he was.
Oh, honey, I will be there for that, because it is butt garbage. It is so bad. It is so bad. Like I can't. Oh, bonus episode.
Yeah, it'll be something.
Yeah, because in our summers, we're definitely going to go through other stuff. We want to do Firefly Dollhouse, which some people in the chat have been talking about today for reasons that I won't spoil for Tony. So anything that's tangentially related to the show, we will find a way. But anyway. They're there, Providence, yay! But it turns out that the hard drive from Sky can only be encrypted by Sky. So Ward's got to go back undercover. They find out that the fridge was taken, and of course they're all worried about Ward. Sky calls Ward and he's okay, and then Garrett beats the shit out of Ward, and then Ward shows up at Providence, and that's how it ends. And I hate how much Sky's gushing over him. It makes me so mad. Like, she doesn't know.
I made that note that they're so deliberate about upping the gush of Sky's crush on Ward just to make it sting, the inevitable sting so much. She's so like goo goo gaga over him. Well,
they put that kiss in there, They had that kiss right before he went out to maybe die. And he was so manipulative of her feelings during that period. She's it sucks. I hope she, I don't know, stabs him in the face. I don't know.
Yeah. But when we get this end tag with Quinn is back and he's pissed. I love angry Quinn. And he's I think Brett, your episode was his first episode.
It was his first episode. Yeah.
So he's back, he's mad, but then what? They got gravitonium from the fridge. That's exciting. Back. Yeah. Very interesting.
I like how much they've kept in flux and in circulation, and just in terms of all the characters and shit that they've introduced in this season. It really feels whole. It feels filled out in a nice way.
The toys on the table, and like they're really good about deciding when to pick up a toy and be like, "Hey, I remember this. Like, let's play with this one again." It's really, it's good.
Well put. Yes.
Anything either of you want to say about this episode before I dive into a little history?
Oh, I think I've expressed myself.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting time. I love some dramatic irony when the audience knows something that the characters don't, and this is peak that.
Yeah.
100%. So filming took place from February 11th to February 20th. That big turnaround. So this is interesting. For the final 6 episodes of the season, Marvel began the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Art of Level 7 initiative, in which different images were released every Thursday before the new episodes, depicting basically just a poster for every episode. And there was one last week that Maria had ready to go, but I was so into talking to Clark that I forgot to show it, and now Maria's not here, so I don't know how to do it. So next week we will start showing the posters for these episodes, but it is cool. They have their own little posters. Jeffrey Bell said that was a way to kind of tie the series back to its comics roots, which
Cool.
they had thought of like at the beginning, which was really, really cool. We will get those going in the future when Maria is back. Tony, that was really it for history. Do you want to say our thank yous before we kick you out?
Yeah. So thank you to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on social. She did our artwork. And thank you to Ryan Miera of Yellow Pills at Yellow Pills Music. He did our awesome music. Thank you to producer Maria, who is not here today, but thank you in a general sense anyway. And thank you, Brett, for being our first returning guest. It's such a pleasure every time.
Honestly, that means so much. Thank you. That's awesome.
I mean, everyone knows we wanted you to be our first guest. It just didn't work out. So we had to give you some kind of title.
This is better.
Yeah. I think so. Everybody follow us on social media at LitoPod on Instagram and Twitter. From there, check out our link tree where you can see where all of our episodes are streaming. Like and subscribe to our channels. Leave us 5-star reviews. Don't forget that if you leave a question with your 5-star review, we'll answer them. We'll answer some questions. So that's great. And if you are watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the first time and have not seen Beyond Providence, it is now time for you and Tony to leave the room.
All right. Leaving the room. Everybody.
Bye, Tony. Oh, it's up to me to get him out of here. Remove. Okay.
Did it.
I did it. Gosh. Like, so grateful for Maria, but it does feel powerful when I can kick somebody out of here. All right. So we obviously have to first and foremost talk about the fact that Tony thinks Ward's going to get a redemption.
Oh my goodness. Didn't we all?
Of course, like he technically does in the framework, which I love. I think it's the absolute perfect way to give him a little bit of a good guy turn, because it's like a different alternate version of him, and I love that. But it is wild, like, because I feel the same way as Tony. Like I watch enough TV to know that bad guys in early seasons that you love and want to come back, like Spike and Buffy, they're gonna eventually turn good. And the fact that that doesn't happen with Ward is crazy.
And the fact that it's always steeped in the power of love. And you would think that everything going on with Sky, so wild using that. It's so hard. It's so hard to keep saying Sky.
We're so close.
It's so hard. You would think that's enough, because storytelling up until this point has told us that's enough. And nope. Just Hive for you.
As soon as he drops Fitzsimmons into the ocean, it's fucking done. Like, you just, how do you come back from that?
It's the like the second you touch Fitz, that's it. Like there's no redemption. There's no redemption.
I wrote that in my notes earlier and I started tearing up. I can't think about the ocean scenes without getting so emotional.
Oh, and the aftermath.
It's crazy.
The beginning of season 2, where he's at, it's too much.
Tony is not ready for what's coming. The Fitz emotions are just insane.
That's why I was like, hopefully we'll see some humanity out of Fitz, because all we're going to see for years is fountains of humanity. And it's still so early. It's so wild that it's so early.
Ugh. It is crazy. I want to shout out Snowbat in the comments earlier for hoping to be a guest at season 6. Obviously, we're going to have you on at season 6. The #1 season 6 stan will get you on here in 5 years from now. Don't you worry. There's also of course. There's also a Slingshot reference. Brett, did you watch the Slingshot shorts with?
You know what I'm realizing now? I never did.
I came really late to those. Like, I don't think I watched them until like the last season was coming out, because I just forgot.
I didn't watch
they're pretty good.
I didn't watch the Ben Kingsley Mandarin one until like right before Shang-Chi was in theaters. Anyway, all
of the little like Coulson-y Shield ones I hadn't seen until right before this podcast. Like there's the one where like a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. Like I don't know. Like I just for some reason those did not come into my brain. But Slingshot's great. I think Slingshot won an Emmy. Correct me if I'm wrong, comments, but I'm pretty sure it did. So
Interesting.
I'm excited. But that's not. But speaking of Slingshot and Yo-Yo,
Yes.
So I really thought that Yo-Yo, that they were gonna make her Johnny Horton's daughter in the show, but they didn't really do that.
No, they
And
did not. She's disconnected.
Mhm.
Yeah. But Yo-Yo was brought on not because of that Griffin connection. I think coincidence that he was mentioned and that she will be on later. She was very much a staple of the Secret Avengers, which was Daisy's team in the comics. So they were borrowing from the Secret Avengers book, which is why Yo-Yo was brought into the show.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on this show before, but it took me a while to ship Mac and Yo-Yo because I was convinced all of season 3 that Mac was gay. I don't know. Looking back, I don't even remember why, but I thought he was gay, and I thought that him and Joey were going to be a couple. And I was so, like, I just in my head that was going to happen. I was so certain that Mac and Joey were going to be a thing, and then that I was so wrong.
Because you want a guy who's that big and masculine to all of a sudden be like, I'm gay, and like, yay, we're no stereotypes. Did I say Secret Avengers before? I meant Secret Warriors, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, Secret Warriors.
Secret Warriors.
Yeah.
I really
Mac and Yo-Yo.
I really thought Mac to me just in the season 2 especially just had this like gay energy. I don't know what it is.
I mean, I'll keep it coming. Yeah,
I actually heard a really great story about Henry Simmons the other day that I will share right now. I was talking to somebody at a party who was in a couple seasons of season 7. I'm not going to say who they are just because it was like a casual party situation. It wasn't like an interview thing, but she told me that she was in a couple episodes of season 7 and was supposed to like get punched by Mac, and Henry Simmons just couldn't do it. He's like, I can't punch a woman. He was like, she said he was like panicking about it. Like, he's like, I'm so sorry. I know this is like a big moment for you, but like, I just can't do it. And I'm like, bless him. He's such a sweetheart.
Is he working? What's he doing these days?
I don't know. I haven't seen Henry Simmons since the show. If he's doing something, I don't know. But if anyone has any updates about Henry Simmons, I'd love to watch him doing stuff. He's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so also it's just so sad knowing that Koenig is gonna die so soon. But when he mentions like playing with his brother, like we're gonna meet all of his brothers eventually.
And so that's my first. I remember, and ultimately it worked out okay. So when there was a show about S.H.I.E.L.D., I was looking for 2 things: Lola, which we got, end of episode 1. And LMDs. And when they showed multiple Koenigs, and when they showed him, what episode is it where he takes out socks and it's robots all over the socks?
Oh, is it? Well, Hot Potatoes. No, that's not Hot Potato Soup. Is just where you get all the like so many Koenigs, but I don't remember when he has the socks. But it did feel like I do know. I remember that because everyone thought that.
I thought he was an LMD, and so it's all very painful. But hey, the LMD stuff worked out. It's fine.
It absolutely it is weird. There's just a lot of it's like they're just like quadruplets or quintuplets or however many of them because there's a sister in there. I do like we're so far away from season 4, but I really would love to get Patton Oswalt on here for Hot Potato Soup, but like maybe by then that'll be easy. Who knows? That's years away. But okay,
so,
I wanted to say that it's interesting that Gravitonian comes back in Talbot's first episode. I think that's really a coincidence. I don't think that at this moment in time they knew what they were going to do with Talbot in season 5. Yeah. No, but it's like watching back. I'm like, that is an interesting coincidence.
Well, this is the connection I made about Raina. Was like, seeing her be like, so wait a minute, you don't have clairvoyant powers? I was like, oh, there's a connection I never made, that she was so heartbroken about believing that this person was precognitive. And then we'll get next season where she developed clairvoyancy, which is wild. I love that.
Poor Raina. Raina is such a good arc, but it'll always be sad that she, dies because I love her so much.
Well, I mean, the whole Inhumans thing is going to be sad.
It's season 2 is my second favorite season, I think, because it's it just crushes. Also, you earlier made an Anthony Michael Hall joke about Law and Order, and I think, did you forget that he was in season 6 of Agents of Shield?
I totally forgot.
I knew. I could tell that you totally forgot, and I was like, "Oh!" But he's on Kitson. He's the he runs the casino in Kitson.
Oh my god, that's right. And Fear and Loathing on the Planet Kitson.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Fun fact, Brett has played Brian from The Breakfast Club in a musical, so I know he's a big Anthony Michael Hall guy.
I have. I put that show. Yep. I was the final piece of the puzzle on that show.
Oh, bringing up some memories.
Oh,
I know. Okay, so that's all I had for in terms of like Tony leaves the room stuff. Was there anything else that was bubbling up?
no,
for you?
that really was the big thing. Was the Gravitonium and Talbot. That was wild. The Reyna and the clairvoyant powers was wild. I just want to ask, when do we get, is it next episode or the episode after that we get the death of Koenig and the iconic Ward is Hydra poster scene?
I believe that's 2 weeks. Next week. So next week is the light in, the only light in the darkness, which is the Amy Acker episode, which I'm so excited about because I love her. Yeah. I know, the cellist. I know. And then after that is Nothing Personal, and I'm pretty sure that's it. That's when I already know that my longtime Shield friends Jackie and Sari are here to talk about that one. Maria Hill's in that one. Yeah. So
nice.
yeah, very excited. We don't have our guests locked in for next week, but in 2 weeks we've got that one. So yeah, we're a couple weeks away. We're so close to the end. It's crazy. I can't believe how fast this is going.
That moment is, I'm so excited for you to talk about that episode. That moment is one of the best moments of television ever. That there's nothing like Skye seeing that.
The word is I forgot that, like, a part of me thought it happened this episode. I'm like, no, they drag that out. They make us have to sit and watch Ward pretending when he's getting interrogated by Koenig, and he's like, "Are you Hydra?" And he's like, "Yes, but we're all Hydra." It's like, oh, he's so good.
Yep.
At sucking.
So good.
Well,
thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited that we had you on for this episode. It's been exciting. We already now know what your season 2 episode's going to be. Oh, what I wanted to say is that one has Peggy Carter flashbacks. So I know. And I haven't been able to decide when we're going to do season 1 of Agent Carter, because I want to get season 2 closer to season 7 for the Sousa love, but I'm debating on that one. But so that's going to be a good one next season. But anyway, I know, my boy. Thank you to everyone for listening. We're back next week for episode 19, The Only Light in the Darkness. Amy Acker. We'll be doing our live show on Sunday, April 21st, with the episode officially dropping on April 22nd. Tony and I are going to be, oh no, that's the following week. Never mind. Forget what I was going to say. April 21st, April 22nd. Check out the episode, all major pod platforms. You know the spiel. Don't forget to tell your friends about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Love in the Time of Hydra. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see if I can figure out how to stop this stream.
You can do it.
Yay. Goodbye, Brett. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.